Hey everyone, welcome to a special crossover. Locked on Lakers, Locked on Clippers. Brian Kamenetzky, Darian Vaziri here talking Christmas Day basketball and off-season moves for the LA teams. That's all coming up next.
You are Locked On Clippers, your daily Los Angeles Clippers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks to everybody for making Locked on Lakers or Locked on Clippers your first listen of every day. And I presume if one is the one, then Darian, the other one is the other one. That's how it works. And then when it's all over, you go and you download the latest Dime Dropper pod with Darian Vaziri, and you are potted out for the next, however many hours of your day. Brian Kamenetzky, Darian Vaziri, really excited to connect back up with you. It's been a little too long. How you been?
I'm really good. How about yourself?
I am good. My children are, my wife is trying to get my daughter into the bath. It is bedlam upstairs, but it is, I think it's we got a lot I want to talk to you about, because it's been a weird off season. And we'll get to this in a little bit, but it's been kind of an unusual off season. Lakers have gotten a ton of attention for, Rob Pelinka's, people are talking GM of the year and all kinds of praise and this and that. And even Lakers fans are excited about him again. Very little noise at all from the Clippers, who I want to talk to you. Like, are they kind of just being completely forgotten in the Western Conference this year, given the track record of the last couple? But first, how seriously do you personally take Christmas Day scheduling in the NBA, Darian?
When you say seriously, do you mean like the importance of the game, or who the NBA thinks is going to be great type of thing?
Well, all of it, because, first, I mean, as a fan, there's sort of the fan's perspective of, what are we watching? Are we getting some good games and all that kind of stuff? So there's that. But then it becomes a referendum a little bit, like you say, on who people think are going to be good. And then as a fan, if you're not one of those teams, there is the potential to be insulted. And so I ask this because late in the afternoon on Thursday, Shams Charania at the Athletic and Stadium put out his sources for the Christmas Day schedule. It is Bucks versus Heat, Bucks versus Knicks, Sixers at Heat, Lakers at Celtics. Celtics at Lakers. I'm having trouble reading today. Mavs at Suns, Warriors at Nuggets. Those are all really, really good games, but it doesn't include the Clippers. Are you at all surprised?
I shouldn't be. I was more surprised that we didn't get the Christmas game last year, because we knew that Kawhi Leonard was going to come back. And you can make a great case for the Clippers to be one of those teams that get it this year. I mean, Russell Westbrook, Kawhi, Paul George, people are going to talk about us no matter what they want to say preseason about our expectations, to potentially be in the title hunt or whatever. Obviously, they were a lot louder last season because, Kawhi was just coming back and we thought we had the best roster. A lot of people thought we had the best roster. I even remember coming on here and talking to you guys on opening night, and you guys were super high on our roster too. So it obviously blew up in our face a little bit. So many injuries, but some guys regressing. This season, I think my honest opinion is that the NBA didn't put us on Christmas because they don't know who's going to be playing for the Clippers if they play on Christmas. And I think there's a lot of teams you can say that about. But even let's say AD or LeBron doesn't play for the Lakers, it's still the Lakers. Like, you guys were getting 30-plus nationally televised games when Lonzo was the best player or the most exciting player. So that's a little different. And then as far as Phoenix and Dallas are concerned, there's definitely some history there. And now, especially with Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant being on separate sides, I think that it's not I have no problem with what the NBA did. As far as the insulted thing, I mean, I want to say a little bit, but I want to see the players get insulted and perform on that. It doesn't matter what it doesn't really matter what I think.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Like, I wonder how, look, I think if you knew that both of those teams were going to play, as a player on the teams, you just want it to be against each other, like Lakers versus Clippers, so nobody has to travel on Christmas. But aside from that, I wonder how much they look at that and either have the same kind of reaction, like, okay, look, it's a couple of years of injuries, or I suspect, when you hear guys like that talk, somebody like Paul George would probably take that as a slight. I just wonder what that does for them going to this. But let's talk about the games themselves. Like you mentioned the Mavs. I mean, that's the league trying to pump up Luka. Sixers, Heat, Bucks, Knicks, that's what you get, for the Eastern Conference teams. And then Celtics, Lakers, I don't think I have to explain. The Lakers are getting an opening night game against Denver too. So
You said the Nets? The Nets got on Christmas?
No. Knicks. Bucks,
okay,
Knicks,
I was about
Bucks,
to say.
Knicks. I got to be more articulate. Bucks, Knicks.
No, that's my fault.
And no, it's not. No, I should speak more clearly. So I thought the schedule, they got it right, but it was an interesting day to have you on and do this together because I was just I wondered what the percent when the Lakers are bad, they got to be really bad not to play on Christmas. It happened, a little bit in the completely dead era. But other than that, if they even have a whiff of competence, they're going to be playing on Christmas, like you say, because they're the Lakers. The difference is this year, I feel like they actually have, like where do you put the Lakers? We'll just do the Lakers Clippers thing now. Where do you put the Clippers, like, in this mix of the Western Conference? Because I have no idea what to do with them based on this offseason, re-signing Westbrook, stuff like that.
The Clippers, I think, are going to be the hardest team for people that are making predictions in the West to place, because you really just don't know what you're getting as far as health. I guess you could say a similar thing about the Lakers, but I think after seeing them go to the conference finals, I think people may have a little bit more of a belief in them staying healthy than the Clippers. So right now, I'd say the Denver Nuggets are for sure, to me, the team to beat. Like, there's no doubt about that for me. Murray and Jokic are only going to be getting better, hitting their primes, Jokic being in his prime. And then I'd say the next team would be either you guys or the Suns. I like the Lakers fit better than the Suns. I think the Suns fit is a little weird, but I still think you got to put them in the mix. Just having three players of that caliber. I think Bradley Beal is an upgrade over Chris Paul. And sometimes I forget that they still have DeAndre Ayton, who, for all the, stuff that he has said about him, he is still a good player. Like, he's still a guy.
And now they're fourth best.
Yeah, exactly. So I think the Suns and the Lakers a step above the Golden State Warriors. But let me just say this. If we're healthy, I think we're as good as just about any team besides the Nuggets, because the Suns don't scare me at all, for one. I think even if, I know it's an if Schmiff, but if Kawhi Leonard hadn't gotten hurt, even if we didn't get back Paul George, I think we were en route to win that series. Kawhi was playing better than anybody in that series, even Booker or KD, and Westbrook had a great postseason for us in that playoffs. And then you have the Lakers, of course, who, the Clippers and Lakers have never met in the playoffs, but as a Clipper fan, why should I say, having won the last 12 games, that I'm afraid of the Lakers? I shouldn't say that, even though you had a better season than us. I shouldn't, right?
No, I mean, I don't. The Lakers Clippers thing is a hard one too, because the Lakers have struggled so much against them. I feel like they are better suited now with more wing depth and real players who can guard, between Vanderbilt and now they're Taurean Prince and Max Christie's kind of ascending. And all it used to be the Clippers would have this, massive advantage because the Lakers just didn't have the personnel to really play defense against them. I can't figure, there's an Earth 9 scenario. I had a similar conversation with Nick Angstad, host of Locked On Mavs, yesterday. There's a sort of an Earth 9 aspect to, like, the Clippers, where they're all players the Lakers went after. Like, the reality of the Clippers right now could have been the reality of the Lakers. Like, it was almost sort of supposed to be that way when the Lakers were waiting around and putting this roster together. So it's like the head-to-head matchup and the vibe. And, there's something else I want to ask you about, a comment I heard Paul George make just about the way they're treated in the arena. The future of these two teams is kind of fascinating to me. Plus, reports that a Kobe Bryant statue is in the works to be released and unveiled next year around this time. I know you are a huge Kobe guy, Darian, so I want to talk about that with you as well, and we'll get to it all next.
Today's episode is brought to you by Bird Dogs. Bird Dogs make you look good because they're stretch khaki shorts that are designed to fit slimmer through the thigh and leg to give you a truly sculpted look and make you look like a beast. Bird Dog shorts do the exact same thing as Lululemon, but they're a way better fit, and they fit way better than regular shorts that are made of a stiff, restricting cotton. And Bird Dogs fixed that issue by inventing a cloud knit fabric that looks just like khaki but stretches, so you get a way slimmer fit that doesn't restrict your movement at all. And Bird Dogs uses anti-stink sweat wicking fabric that keeps you cool and dry all day long, so you can do just about anything in Bird Dogs, whether you're going for a walk or you're just walking around your house. Bird Dogs can do the job. Just go to birddogs.com/lockedonnba or enter promo code LockedOnNBA for a free white tech hat. That's birddogs.com/lockedonnba or promo code LockedOnNBA for a free white tech hat. You won't want to take your Bird Dogs off. We promise you.
So we'll get to this Kobe thing in the statue reports here in a second. I like I said, I agree. I don't know what to make of the Clippers because when you put these teams, I've had all these conversations on this. Like, there is no reason to think that the rest of the team isn't scary. What do you think about what they've done? Because we did the Russ thing. It was not a great experiment. I don't love him as a playoff guard anymore. And I don't know what's behind. Like, so if everything works the way it's supposed to, where do you think the Clippers match up against the Lakers, match up against Denver? Like, what is on that roster that works? Because there were some cracks, but they've kind of shuffled the deck a little bit.
Well, you mentioned that you guys have more wing depth now to combat Kawhi and Paul George, and that's true. Honestly, I think that the streak will end this year. I don't see us winning 4
Thank
games.
God, I am real tired of the streak.
Yeah, and oh man, it's gonna be funny because I just know if you guys beat us, it's been so long that Laker fans are gonna act a little too excited to beat the Clippers in a regular season game.
You think how do you think it's gonna be? You think you're gonna try to play it cool, or like actually like get irrationally excited?
Me or you guys?
No, the Lakers fans. Like I
don't know. I think
it's like there is something to be said for not looking like you're that concerning or that you care that much that you just beat the Clippers.
Yeah, exactly.
From our side of things.
Right. And just because I'm only speaking from the viewpoint of you guys are the Lakers, 17 rings, and we're the little brother type of thing. But as far as the Clippers go, I think look, the whole Laker Clipper thing, like I don't think I don't know if we're gonna meet in the playoffs. Everyone says that every year. Oh, I want to see this series in the Staples Center. Lakers and Clippers. I'm like, I've been hearing that since 2006. Like, I just don't know if it's gonna happen. And I don't. For us, it's not a great series. Like, it's not gonna be like true home playoff games for the Clippers, like normal. So I'm not and the ticket prices, like, they don't even get me started on that conversation. So as of now, I'm not worried about the Lakers because I don't think we're gonna play them in the playoffs. But if that if that matchup is a potential thing, I'm guessing that we will be tapping in at some point in the future. But the Denver Nuggets, we have a terrible matchup against them. Terrible. But I will say this. One thing that made our matchup with them better was Westbrook, because he can really challenge Jokic at the rim. The thing about the Clippers is their biggest weakness is we could not get to the basket enough. And Jokic is not a great rim protector. He's not a bad defender like everyone says. I think everyone found that out watching the playoffs and the finals. But he's still not some crazy rim deterrent. Anthony Edwards averaged 31 points in that series. Westbrook gives the Clippers the ability to have someone that can kind of get downhill and also someone that can challenge Jamal Murray a bit, just position for position. We got killed in terms of guard play against Denver all the time. Now, do I have an answer on how to guard the Jokic Murray pick and roll? No. I think 30 other coaches and their staffs are trying to figure out, or 29 other coaches and their staffs are trying to figure out the same answer to that question. But Westbrook, if you looked at the game, the one game we played against Denver after we got him, we should have won. It was in Denver. It went to overtime. It was on national television. And I don't know why Marcus Morris was back in that game. He was playing terribly. And that was the peak of the whole Ty Lue, Marcus Morris. Like, why is he still playing so much thing? So am I going to sit here and say I think we can beat Denver? No. but I think our matchup has gotten better because of the Westbrook thing.
Let's talk a little bit about Kobe. The report came out this week that, and this is from the Daily Mail, and some of the, when you start to really dig into the details of this, it feels it feels like it may be some holes in the reporting. But according to the Daily Mail, the Lakers will unveil the statue out in front of crypto.com on 8/8/24. So almost exactly a year from now. It would feature not just Kobe, but also Gigi, and all that. But they also haven't apparently picked an artist. They also may not have actually figured out what the renderings would look like, and it is, according to the report, in very early days. I don't know exactly how one goes about making a giant statue, but it feels to me like if you got to pick the artist, put it together, pick the artist, decide on a design, and actually make the thing. A year feels ambitious. But the thing that I wanted to ask you about, because you are almost, and this hurts, half my age. I covered Kobe, came into the league, it was sort of started doing stuff. He was, early. This was sort of, I started doing stuff around the league in, the early 2000s, sort of mid 2000s, first season covering the team. Later, almost as we get to the Pau Kobe era. You grew up at a different time. You got a different Kobe. When people, you personally, people your age, how do you look at Kobe? How do you see, sort of this post-career legacy? What do you think of when you get this, the news of the statues and stuff like that?
Well, what was your first year covering Kobe? I'm curious.
Oh, geez, I got to look it back up. I think it was 08, but I gotta double check.
So Pat was on the team already?
08, 07. Yeah, it might have been the year they acquired him. I
Okay, so
forget
that was
exactly.
08.
Yeah. I was doing stuff around the team before that,
Mhm.
and then covering it for the Times. It was somewhere in there. Yeah.
So I just turned 25. So my actual intro to really watching basketball, like really watching it, was when I was 7 years old, 05-06 season.
Mm.
Anybody that's well versed in Laker history knows what that season was. A season in which, to this day, I stand on it strong. Kobe's MVP is sitting at Nash's house. And I'm a little kid, and I didn't even like the Lakers. I just became a Clipper fan because, and if you're wondering why am I a Clipper fan that was born and raised in LA, that's why, because that team outside of Kobe wasn't that interesting. It was Smush
Mhm.
Parker, Kwame Brown. We had Sean Livingston coming off the bench. Like, the Clipper team that season was good. Sam Cassell, Katino Mobley, like these guys were players. That was before. This is after Knuckleheads, but
Oh,
that
yeah,
Lakers,
you're right.
yeah, this is Elton Brand, like
Yeah, yeah,
very good
yeah.
team that the Lakers almost played in the second round. But Kobe in 06, like, it's very hard to describe to somebody who wasn't here every night watching it. Like, unless you really watched every one of his games on League Pass. I remember coming to my grandma's house in the fourth quarter in a January night, or was it late December? And Kobe had checked out of the game against Dallas, and he had more points than their whole team, 62 in 3 quarters against the team that went to the
Way
championship.
more impressive to me than 81. Still to this day is more impressive to me than 81.
And then a couple weeks later, I watched the 81-point game live, and I'll never forget where I was. I was 7 years old, and I watched it at my aunt's house that was living in LA at the time. That was the night I found out who Wilt was as well, because naturally, when you break records, Wilt's name will come up. So
Exactly.
Kobe, just seeing that season, averaging 35 points a game, I mean, it was just something else. And then to live in LA and go to school during the time that Kobe's in his prime, winning championships. I mean, you could not say a bad word about this guy. Like, he had this godlike worship over every single Laker fan, which is
Mhm.
literally 90% of kids growing up. I was obviously in a huge minority. You could not say a bad word about this guy. Like, I kid you not, even up to 2013 till he tore his Achilles, the LeBron Kobe arguments every single day at lunch. They started before school. I remember there was a group of kids every single day, LeBron versus Kobe, before the bell rang. Like, Kobe is the absolutely most influential athlete of my life, being that I grew up in LA during this time. There's no Clipper player that matches up to it. At the end of the day, I am a Clipper fan, but I'm also an LA native, and there's
Mhm.
nobody like I was in college at the time of the news, of the tragic news, and God, I mean, people didn't understand, because I was a Clipper fan, why it broke me so bad. But you grow up, and Kobe's name came up every day at school, every single day. So it's still very surreal, and my appreciation has only grown for him as the game has changed. And people will say, "Oh, Kobe, when Kobe played, he did this and that." And I've realized as I've gotten older, the faster I stop comparing people to Kobe Bryant is, when you'll get less mad at things now.
Let's stick on this, because the experience of, you talk about like the LeBron Kobe thing. Andy and I, when we were doing radio work, especially, was right when was when LeBron came. We were doing shows, as that news was breaking, literally. But we were working for the LA Times and for ESPN as that sort of the league tried to make that rivalry happen. And the reaction of Lakers fans, and specifically Kobe fans, was is permanently kind of branded into my brain, to the point that context obviously changed things. But I was very interested in the overall acceptance LeBron would ever have in this city because of it. So I got more questions about Kobe for you, because I don't get a chance to talk to people who saw him at your age, and I think it's just a profoundly different experience that I want to get into a little more. I do want to remind people that today's episode is brought to you by Bird Dogs. Go to birddogs.com/lockedonnba or enter the promo code LockedOnNBA for a free white tech hat. I believe it looks like this. With any purchase. You won't want to take your Bird Dogs off. We promise you. You still should, and wash them sometimes, but you won't want to. All right, more Kobe next. All right, Darian, you mentioned that you watched the Kobe 81 game at your aunt's house, and like you have that memory. I was there in covering it. That was a game we covered 2 times.
Very lucky.
Yes and no. It was really cool to be there, but the experience was really strange, and I'll tell you why. That Lakers team, you mentioned Smush and those guys, they were playing a lousy Toronto team. They needed to win that game, for their playoff hopes and all that kind of stuff. Like, this was an important game that they were giving away at home to a bad Raptors group. And so at halftime, for example, I don't remember exactly what he had, some sort of normal sounding, like 34 at the half or something, so where you just like, oh, Kobe's got 30 points, whatever, it's fine. He does this all the time. You're so concerned about what the game is saying, like the score of the game and the consequences of the game, that it wasn't until like the third quarter where you start to look up as the Lakers are taking control of the game, and you kind of like, oh, Kobe's up to like 50, man. Oh, hey, he's got 60. He's got 70. Holy bleep, he's gonna get to 80. And you start to really, the game got to become about what Kobe was doing. But I'm watching in press row, and you have to kind of, you know how this works. You have to kind of be, at the very least, well behaved. I think the experience of being able to watch that as a kid, and watch Kobe as a kid, where the rest of the BS and how you write about him, or are you being fair, are you being this, that, whatever is, that experience is foreign to me. And I think would be so cool, because as a kid, you just love the player who does awesome stuff, is a killer, the guy you want to emulate on the court and all that. That is something that I never had a chance to do. I think it's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, I was never a guy that could emulate Kobe because I was a point guard. I was a smaller guard, so like the things I couldn't really replicate or even try to do the things.
Was there anything that you tried to pull out that was like a little bit of Kobe, whether attitude, swagger? Stick your tongue out when you're doing something.
I'd say the biggest thing was the mindset. I think anytime I reached any kind of struggle in life, this is really weird, but anytime I reached a struggle in life, I would just remember hearing Kobe say, "If you want something bad enough, you're going to have to work hard enough to nothing can stop you at it." And I just always thought, if I wanted to get great at something, I'm just going to work as hard as I can to do it. And that was something that, just by being such a basketball junkie, Kobe kind of put in my brain as a kid. Because like the Clippers, for example, we did get Chris Paul and Blake Griffin, but that had been 5 years of me just watching both LA teams. Nobody was bigger than Kobe at the time. Nobody. And so he was the guy, he's the best player in the league. Like, And playing in my city, that was the main reason why I watched Laker games growing up, is because I come from a family of Laker fans, like in terms of my uncles and stuff. My parents immigrated, so they weren't too into basketball. But my uncle used to always say, you have one of the best players ever in your city that you can watch for free every night. Don't take it for granted. And I remember him saying those words, and I didn't. So, like you talk about the 81, and we're talking about 06. What about 07, where he had 4 games in a row of 50? Like
50.
that was in the 2000s, where there was
Mm-hmm.
2 big men clogging the paint, and he was doing it. Like,
And the I think the game that broke the streak was like 36, 37. It was
46, I think,
40.
against
Okay.
Golden State.
Yeah. I mean, I have terrible recall for this sort of stuff. Like once all of this stuff ended up on something I could look up on my phone, I stopped trying to remember any of it. But yeah, I mean, like, I think, like, I am not one of these people who thinks analytics ruin the game. I actually think I think analytics have made basketball a better sport. I think it is more open. I think you get to showcase the talent, the pure skill of these players, because of the way the game is shifted, whether it's because of analytics, because of guys like Steph, whatever it might be. It's ruined baseball. That's a different conversation we can have another time. But I do think, because it's whether it's the rings culture, the hot take culture, which was, certainly exploding on sports radio, on ESPN, on Fox, through this era where hot takery became the only way to do it. The polarization of Kobe, just his game, stay away from the sort of, the other stuff, the off the court stuff that is obviously important and serious. But when you just look at the polarization that his game would bring, I do feel like there was an element of just not appreciating how great he was sometimes, because you either always wanted to be greater. It's a point that a former colleague, Max Kellerman, has made about players that I think is really astute, or just because you were put in a place where you just weren't allowed to like the guy. But man alive, when you start to go back and you look at some of those numbers, that streak that you're talking about is one that always sticks out. The Mavs game always sticks out. It is insane what the guy did right up to his last game in the league with 60, that was a game where nobody had to behave in press row. Nobody in the building was behaving that night. It was amazing.
Yeah, my last things on Kobe are that, we talk about the crazy scoring games, but I think the crowning moments of Kobe's career are the 3-year run from 08, 09, and 10 with Powell, and the way he sacrificed his scoring was a great leader in terms of making everybody really a better player as well. I know people don't think of Kobe in that sense, but I really think he did, like both mentally and on the court. Sasha Vujacic, Jordan Farmar, like these guys, they didn't end up really having careers without Kobe Bryant like that. Like their careers weren't that great.
No.
You know what I'm saying? And even as someone as talented as Lamar Odom, like and he was very good for us before and whatever, but after the Lakers thing happened, he was not the same. Even a guy like Andrew Bynum, like that's somebody who 20, 30 years from now, we're gonna have to explain to people like what his impact was at the time. So I think Kobe just did an incredible job of elevating all these guys, and he does not get enough credit for those 2 rings, in my opinion, because yeah, you had a very good overall team, but it was just in terms of stars, it was him and Powell. Lamar, he could be a star caliber player some nights, but it was inconsistent in that sense. Powell and him were the stars, and they beat a great Celtics team and were in a very great West, and Kobe does not fully get the credit to me as a leader for that.
Yeah, we won't have time to get into it, but like the games, that game 7 against Boston was one of the most fascinating, I think, sort of profound, moments, for Kobe. The vulnerability he showed after the game was amazing. I will say forever that the most amazing thing I ever saw the guy do were the free throws after the Achilles. It's another game I was at. That is just one of the most remarkable and stunning things that I've ever. And he spoke to the media after that game. How much trouble am I going to be getting you in for spending an entire episode of your show talking about Lakers greats. Is that something that's going to get you in trouble? Are you going to be getting emails and angry
Oh man,
comments on the YouTube channel? What's this going to look like?
Clipper Nation is gonna go crazy on me. I mean, the thing, Clipper fans, don't be too mad. I'll have episodes for you guys coming up this weekend if you got disappointed. But like, I don't know. I can talk about
It was kind of a
basketball.
jerk move on my part to even bring
It
this
is,
up because I
but see,
knew
I
I
love
knew
it. Like,
I was reeling you into a trap because I knew you're a Kobe guy,
I
and
mean,
you know,
at the end of the day, I'm an LA guy. Like
yeah,
for the most part, like if you paid your dues in this city, even as a Laker, I'm gonna show a lot of respect. And I'm big into basketball history, and you can't really tell that without Laker history. Which again, Clipper fans not gonna like that comment, but it's true. So yeah, I always love talking about Kobe and sharing my experiences because Kobe and LeBron, there's no two players that I was, got to know better in that way.
it is amazing. Like the two guys that have sort of bookending my work in this space are Kobe Bryant and LeBron James. It's really, really hard. If you are a person who gets to cover sports in this city, the Dodgers are good every year. We got soccer teams winning titles. Like it's a good place to be. So I highly recommend it. Locked on Lakers, Locked on Clippers on YouTube, where you can go to hang out, leave comments, leave questions, leave angry messages for Darian, but really leave them for me because it's my fault. It's not his. Don't blame him. Blame me. Um,
I got one little quick thing. One shout
yeah,
out. I got to give a shout out to my boy, Mr. Nagdy and Big Shot B, your listeners who I coached in basketball and they knew about me because of this podcast. So if they're listening to this, shout out to you guys. All the best.
nice. Nice. All right. We will see everybody next week. Have a great weekend. That thing. Oh, sorry. That was, I really, now that was just for our show. You can cut that out. Sorry.